The Cottingley fairy photographs attracted the attention of the world when they first appeared in 1919. In early 1998, Fairytale, A True Story was a new movie based on the phenomenon. Filmed mostly on location in Cottingley, the film had already been seen by cinema audiences overseas and had earned £14 million in stateside box offices by early 1998. The Odeon's assistant manager, Nigel Schofield, was the one who secured the UK Premiere of Fairytale for Bradford. I was on the phone talking to a film booker contact in London at around the same time that Fairytale was first being talked about, she remembers. I told him that whenever it was to be released in the UK, I wanted the premiere for Bradford because the story had happened locally. It was just a bit of a throwaway comment, but to my surprise, they offered us the film. Christine was naturally excited about securing such an exclusive for the Odeon. She says, "I took it upon myself to start doing things, and everything just grew and grew and grew, and it became such a big event. Now, when I look back on it, I just think, my God." In fact, 2 Bradford premiere screenings of Fairytale were scheduled to take place on Sunday the 8th of February 1998. 5 days before the film's official UK release date. A first screening in Odeon 2 at 2:35 that afternoon would be the People's premiere, followed by the Lord Mayor's premiere at 3 p.m. at the Pictureville Cinema. Christine's husband Nigel, who filmed this footage, assisted with the transformation of the Odeon's interior for the occasion, which required an excursion out to the Cottingley Woods where the original fairy photographs had been taken. "We collected branches from there," remembers Nigel. "We then put them in the middle of the stairs leading up to the cinemas with pictures of the fairies hanging off them. We also placed information and press cuttings about the film on the foyer wall, which we also framed with the branches. Christine had asked the staff to bring in whatever fairy lights they had, and we covered the ceiling of both foyers with them. The Odeon staff were happy to get involved, enthusiastically mucking in. One of them was Chief Projectionist Graham Bird. He said, "It looked lovely. We had also been given slides from the Fairytale film as part of a press kit, so these were shown in constant rotation on a screen I'd positioned just to the side of the bar entrance. I borrowed the slide projector from the Photography Museum." The Alhambra also placed an order for 1,500 fairy cakes for its believers-only party. Christine Schofield said, "They had a massive budget for what they did, but we weren't given any money at all. Everything we pulled together for the premiere had been begged, borrowed or stolen. It was just a case of finding the right people or talent." The visual spectacle extended beyond the cinema. Bradford Council converted its new Centenary Square space, which faces the City Hall, into an Edwardian fairground, complete with old-fashioned style rides. Several vintage buses were also transported from the city's Industrial Museum, and a fine collection of vintage cars was also on display. Mel Gibson, Harvey Keitel, Paul McGann and Peter O'Toole all starred in Fairytale, but none of them attended the premiere. However, Phoebe Nichols, Tim McInerney and Bill Nye did come to Bradford, as did director Charles Sturridge. They were all invited to a special luncheon with the Lord Mayor at City Hall prior to the premiere screenings. Bradford's Lord Mayor, Councillor Tony Cairns, made an address from the steps of City Hall.
Today is a very special day for all of us who live in the Bradford district. The day that a local story, which is now part of our folklore, the Cottingley Fairies legend, receives its United Kingdom premiere as a major motion picture. Before I officially declare this carnival open, I wish to extend a warm welcome to our friends from Warner Brothers UK and to Charles Sturridge, the director of Fairytale, and his distinguished cast and crew.
Tickets for both premieres were issued by invitation. However, there was still plenty going on in the city centre to enchant the huge crowds unable to get into either cinema. Prince's Way became a haven of jugglers and magicians, whilst children had their faces painted or took rides on a winged fairy pony. The stars of the film were transported from Centenary Square to the Odeon via a horse-drawn vintage bus. Meanwhile, Tim McInerney joined Bradford's Fairies for a photo shoot in the Jacobswell subway, which made the front page of the following day's Telegraph and Argus. The local media was out in force that Sunday afternoon. They waited outside the Odeon for the vintage bus to arrive, as did a line of fairies. The film stars, director Charles Sturridge and the fairies then posed for photographs. The stars of the film were interviewed by the media in the upper foyer. Those with tickets for the People's Premiere were immediately greeted by a spectacle at the Odeon, which had been transformed into an enchanted grotto. "We had all of these little ballet dancers in the foyer as people came in," recalls Christine. Odeon 2 was mainly packed with the Cottingley First School pupils who had appeared as extras in the film. The Odeon's manager, John Barkas, gave a short speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Barkas. I'm the General Manager of this Odeon Cinema. And on behalf of the listeners, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the People's Premiere of Fairytale, a True Story. It is both an honour and a privilege for Odeon to be involved with this premiere, particularly as it is also connected to a charity event. I would like to welcome the distinguished director of today's film, Mr. Charles Sturridge.
Good afternoon, Brad. Sorry to keep you waiting. We came by horse-drawn carriage. I think it's probably about 30 yards from the town hall, but we came by your wonderfully circuitous roads on the horses. It was a bit longer than we thought. Thanks for waiting. We're not going to do any more talking because everything we think and feel about this extraordinary story you're now about to see on the screen behind me. The very first thing I did when I first heard of the idea of making this film, the next day I came up here to Bradford, went to Cottingley, stood in that curious little bend in the stream just behind the row of houses that make up the place where Elsie lived. And I'm so excited to be here for this kind of last moment of the production before it, like a boat, is launched into the world. You're the very first people in England to see it, and it starts next Friday. I hope the rest of England will see it. But I think no one should have as good a time as you do today. And thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
The day had been a complete triumph. Charles Sturridge told the Telegraph and Argus, "This is a magical film about a magical sequence of events which took place in a magical place. I'm just so pleased that the premiere is being held in the city. It is a day I will never forget." He also explained that he hadn't needed to argue the case for the film's premiere to be in Bradford rather than London. He said it was the people of Bradford who swung it. Well, it was actually one person who had swung it, the Odeon's assistant manager. Christine Schofield's efforts were acknowledged the following year when the Yorkshire Tourist Board declared the Fairytale premiere to be the tourism event of the year in its 1999 awards ceremony. She was invited across to the Photography Museum, where the White Rose Award was presented to her. The Fairytale screening was also to be the last hurrah for the building's Odeon era, as its time as Bradford's main film centre ended just 2 years later with the closure of its cinemas in July 2000. But what a day that premiere was!